Of Smartpin Pro, the membership to help you build an organic traffic strategy with Pinterest. And I've been doing this for a lot of years. Kind of going to tell a little bit of my story about Pinterest, so that I can give you some context here. So the title of this video is why your Pinterest strategy needs to focus off of Pinterest. And that might sound counterintuitive and it might sound really weird, and that's okay, right? Because if we're doing a Pinterest traffic strategy, shouldn't we be doing that on Pinterest? But really, things have changed a lot on Pinterest over the years. When I started using Pinterest way back in the early days, where it looked like little Polaroid pictures, it's like had a totally different look. I wasn't using Pinterest for traffic. I was using it for myself. And then I started using Pinterest to get traffic to my site around 2013, 2014. I was kind of late to the game. Pinterest had this virality that was happening that was really amazing. And I'm going to talk about that right now a little bit. Actually, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But basically, it had this amazing virality. I was able to get a lot of traffic. It was really, really great. And people started asking me, well, how did you do that? And can you teach us? And so that's how my program Smartpin Pro was born, is through people asking me for help and me trying to figure out, well, what exactly did I do? And reconstruct the process and then come up with a framework, a system for teaching that. And the program has evolved over the 5 years that it's been around. It's been great and amazing. And we've, helped over 400 people go through the program. Really, really awesome stuff. And I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the traffic I've gotten from Pinterest. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how much Pinterest has changed. Pinterest has really, really changed. And the way that we need to approach Pinterest from an organic traffic generating standpoint has to be different. It has to be different because we're not going to get the kind of results that we got before the same way that we got them before. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story that happened this weekend to kind of illustrate this point. So because our focus needs to be a little different. My nephew really wanted to learn how to go fishing. And we had the opportunity to go to this really beautiful lake here in Arizona this weekend with family. And it was very remote. It was gorgeous, pristine, awesome, like amazing thunderstorms. And it was just an awesome experience. So we're out there with my nephew. He hasn't fished before. We have the fishing poles. My uncle is showing us how to do everything. I'm learning how to cast and do all that great stuff. And my nephew is like, we're like 10 minutes into it. And he's like, why haven't I caught a fish yet? And my uncle says, are you a fisherman or are you a catcherman? And when we think about fishing, right, we call people a fisherman. Well, fishing is the whole experience, right? It's beginning to end. Catching the fish is one little part of the process, right? You don't go and say, I'm a catcherman, you're a fisherman. It's the whole process. It's the going out there to the water. It's the, tying your lures. It's the putting the leaders on. It's doing all those things, right? Casting over and over, putting bait on if you're doing bait. It's the whole process. And with Pinterest, there's those two roles as well, right? Like, are you a traffic generator or are you a connector? And for years, many, many, many of us, including myself, have been traffic generators on Pinterest, right? We go to Pinterest, we're like, I want your people. I want them to come over to my site. I want them to look at my blog. I want them to buy my products. I want them to do, all these things while they're over there. And we've really been focused on generating traffic versus being a connector, right? When it's traffic, you get one page view and it's one and done. Somebody comes to your site from Pinterest, they bounce on, they hit the page, they bounce off, right? They leave after however many minutes they've read it, and that's it. When you are a connector, what happens is you get the one page view from Pinterest, right? Because they're just going to send one person at a time, right? Maybe they're sending 100 people at a time, but it's individuals that are coming to your site, right? Individual people that we can be of service to. They come to our site. When you're a connector, you connect with them. You have a method for connecting with them. And then you generate 10 times the page views over time, 10 times the interaction, 10 times the possible revenue, 100 times the possible revenue. I have people that have been on like my email list for some of them more than a decade. Some of them have been on there for more than a decade. So you can imagine like how much time, how much ROI I can get from those people if I continue to be connected with them versus just having one page view that hits my site and falls off. So we have to ask the question of ourselves these days with so much noise online, are we being of service? Right? Yes, your business has to make money. I'm not talking about going out and prostrating yourself and just being a charity and doing everything for free and not making any money. Like that's not what I'm talking about. We know that traffic can lead to money. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be focused on traffic. What I'm saying is that the ROI that we can get from Pinterest, there's a little bit of a shift that needs to happen. So let's talk about what this looks like because I was talking a little bit about kind of the history of what happened on Pinterest. This has happened on every single platform. This is something that happens as a platform matures. We start out, and I have a little graph that I'm going to show you guys. We start out here and traffic is going up, right? This is as a platform is growing, things are going amazing, right? Like everyone's starting to talk about the platform and it seems like the growth is never going to stop, right? And we all kind of get diluted a little bit. Like it's easy to be intoxicated by this, like, oh, the traffic's just always going to be there and amazing, but it's not. So at this point, the platform monetizes. Okay. The platform monetizes. And when the platform monetizes, we start to see a decline in the kind of results that we can get, right? So like this side here, this is traffic, okay? So things are going really, really great. And then they monetize and we see a decline in the results we can get. Now it doesn't go back down to zero, right? Zero is down here. It doesn't go back down to zero, but there's diminishing returns, right? And here is where people will say, I shouldn't be on the platform anymore. They bail, right? They leave, right? The people that stay here are the people that get the long-term gains. But we're not getting this kind of traffic anymore. So how do we make this kind of money still, right? If we're down here, how do we make the same kind of money from that traffic? This is where the change in mindset needs to happen, right? Because if we are focused on trying to get the old traffic, and this is a story I hear so often from bloggers, from shop owners, from coaches, from all kinds of people who love Pinterest. I know you love Pinterest, right? We all love Pinterest. It's been great for us for many, many years. The story that I hear is that, okay, well, Pinterest isn't good anymore. I'm going to leave. Pinterest can't give me results anymore. I'm going to leave. It can still give you results, but what the way that we get those results, what we do with that traffic coming to our site, that has to change. And this is not something we can run away from, right? I played that game. I ran away from Facebook to Instagram to Pinterest, YouTube. Like I've done all different kinds of platforms, and every platform experiences the same exact thing as they mature. There's a virality that happens, it drops down, and then you get diminished returns over time, but you still get returns. There are still people teaching Facebook marketing all these years later. There are still people teaching email marketing. There's still people teaching YouTube. There's still people teaching Instagram, right? The same with Pinterest, because we still get a return. It's just, what do we do with that? We didn't have to do very much with traffic when it was just loads of traffic coming to our site, right? And if you're new and you're like, well, I've never experienced that, I want to experience that, that's not going to be with Pinterest. This like crazy virality. Every platform goes through this. Right now, TikTok is in the crazy virality stage, but they've monetized and we're already seeing numbers going down. Okay. So and then there'll be some new platform that comes up and the same thing's going to happen. You guys, I've seen this over and over. This is how it works with social media and with search and that kind of thing. So, If we can accept that, like cheap traffic, free traffic is not over, it's just different, right? Then we can figure out how are we going to get more ROI from it, right? Because we can't just be dependent on Pinterest sending us hundreds of thousands of page views for free every month. It's not going to go back to those numbers that it was. Okay. So then what do? We need to look at Pinterest instead of just as a traffic opportunity, which is one and done, one page view and they leave. We need to look at Pinterest as a connection opportunity. How do I keep the conversation going once they get onto my site? Now, for a lot of people, that looks like email marketing, right? I love email. Email was my first foray into marketing back in 2003. I've been doing email for almost 20 years now. Been a constant contact all-star, all these things. Like I have a love affair with email. I make most of my sales with email, but they had to come from somewhere first, right? They didn't just end up on my email list from the ether, right? They had to come from somewhere, and they're coming from Pinterest. The email list over at Smartpin DIY, I think, is like almost 30,000 strong, and they're from Pinterest. And we clean that list, like we clean it regularly. So, you got to keep the conversation going. So I love email. That's one way. Another way is to get them onto your other social channels, right? Another way to keep the conversation going is retargeting with ads on other platforms. Once they've hit your site, now it's your domain. You're the one that's going to determine how they're going to stay connected with you, right? Whether that's a combination of email, other social media, ads, that kind of thing. Now, laws are changing when it comes to cookies, and so there'll be some things that we're going to be doing differently, right? As that happens and as we learn those things. So like we might not be able to do ads quite the same way that we could, but we can do it now, right? We can do it now. So there are still lots of opportunities for us to connect with people who come from Pinterest to our site and turn those single page views into double-digit, triple-digit page views and a relationship over time with the person that's visiting from Pinterest or whatever platform it is that you're sending them from. But I always talk about Pinterest, so or even if it's your Google traffic, right? This stuff would be good for your Google traffic as well. So why doesn't anybody do this? Why is everybody so focused on Pinterest as a traffic source and not so much as connection? Well, a lot of it is if you're thinking about connecting with someone, you're thinking about the ROI of that relationship a month, 2 months, 6 months, 5 years from now, right? It's a much longer form of thinking instead of the immediacy of like, I need page views this month. I got to make my mortgage, right? So it's a different way of thinking about it. And not everybody wants to do that. We're ahead of now and we are solving for tomorrow. We are building for tomorrow. Also, a lot of people tell me they're too distracted, right? They're like, I've got blog posts to write, I've got product to ship, I've got, recipes to photograph and test and things to develop. And so I don't have time to build anything. I'm just whatever traffic I can get right now. The problem with that is the same problem as the people who depend on ads for all of their traffic. If we're not building for longer term, then when, like, for lack of a better term, when the crap hits the fan, right? There comes a point where you realize, oh my gosh, this is not working anymore. And you have to do something different. Doing something different takes time, right? Doing that pivot takes time. Pivoting from ads to organic traffic strategy takes time. I've seen people close their business because they couldn't switch fast enough from ads to organic because they never built organic. The same as if you switch from I'm just using Pinterest just for traffic and generating revenue off of single page views to switching to being a connector, right? It's very easy to say, oh, I don't want to do that. It's too far in the future. It's not, right now. I need the money right now. We've got to look to longer term in order to build things that are sustainable and that have momentum. And I can tell you this from experience because as I was saying, I built my Pinterest traffic machine and I started building it in 2013, 2014. I struggled for a couple of years. I didn't really nail it till about 2016, 2017. And then I started teaching it. And over that time, from like 2017, 2018 till now, things have changed a lot on Pinterest. What I do is different. The automation tools I have available are different. How I teach it is different. A lot of things have changed. So I don't remember what my point was in saying that story about all the things changing, but just that it does need to evolve. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So things have changed, but the machine that I have been building all this time has such momentum that I was able to take a full 90 days out of my business and let it run itself because the machine was run, it had momentum. I've been able to take lots of time to live my life, because of how I've built this traffic machine. So it really is something that in December, we had our second highest December ever. And I was like offline. I didn't even have my phone. So, it totally does pay off. Like, I'm not telling you to do something I haven't done. This is something I've done over time. And, every month I'm like, okay, what's the next one thing that I can do to move the needle forward? And my focus has been like, I'm still doing things on Pinterest, but really it's what do I do with that Pinterest visitor when they get to my site so that I can turn that one page view into more page views, into more connection. And so what happens when you start building this, right? When you start building this way to have more connection with them, one, you get peace of mind because you're not so dependent on ads or things fluctuating at Pinterest. You've got this machine running where you're sending people back to your site, getting more page views from them, getting more sales. You get more traffic and more page views per visitor. So you have a higher ROI for every person that Pinterest sends over than you did if you were one and done kind of traffic, right? If you didn't ever connect with them. You also get people you can sell to. So many bloggers right now are coming out with products, right? Because there's problems that your readers need to solve and you have the solution for that. And so you need a captive audience to sell to. I was just talking to someone today and he's like, how big is your list? Da, 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 da. Do you have a list? Da, da, da. I was like, I think it's a little crazy at this time that people ask, do you have a list? I'm like, of course we have a list, right? But if you don't have a list, then the best time to start building it is today, right? Because you're going to have something you're going to want to sell to people. And if you have a product, you definitely need a list so that you can stay in contact with people, especially if they're coming from Pinterest. Pinterest is so much higher up in the funnel when it comes to people making a purchase. Or like Pinterest has been releasing all of this information about how basically pinners are more warmed up to buy than you would have thought. And they actually spend more than people on other platforms. So like if you have a product, you need to get that pinner from Pinterest to your product, either through a shop pin or from Pinterest to your site. And then you continue that conversation with them, right? Keep connected with them. The other thing is that this is a very attentive audience, right? A very attentive audience that you can sell things to. They are actively looking for solutions to their problems. So you either sell them by giving them more things to look at, so you're generating more page views, or you sell to them by offering them a product that solves their problem, whether that's your product or an affiliate product or whatever. And so the other thing that's beautiful about this is that you can serve people this way. You can continue to solve their problems when you are connected with them. When they come as a one and done, they just come to your site from Pinterest and then they bounce. And then you never see them again. And we don't want to do that. They have a problem, you have a solution, they're looking for a solution to their problem. You have probably more solutions. You probably have other solutions that are related to that. Like most bloggers and content creators have that kind of thing. If you are a shop, you have products that there's probably other products they need. Like we have someone in our program right now who is a wedding stationery designer, and they might come and order the invitations, but they need other stuff. They need other stuff too. So you stay connected with them so that you can keep the conversation going. So I've talked a lot about email marketing as one of the things that I do. I also have done social media strategy for brands. I was a social media manager for 10 years, working with all different kinds of brands, real, solopreneurs all the way up to $100 million companies. So there's lots of experience there. And I've worked with people. I get people asking me all the time, can you do coaching? Can I work with you? And in these times, I really have been thinking about what my what my offering is and how I can best help. And for the first time ever, I am running a summer special. I'm offering VIP intensive coaching sessions. So typically to work with me, it's a 3 to 6 month commitment minimum. And we're talking, a significant investment of, quite a few $1,000s in order to work with me one-on-one. And it's worth it, right? I have proven track record. I've worked with lots of people and gotten them results. It's been really awesome. The thing is, right now, there's a lot of fear, right? There's a lot of fear in the world. And I don't even like to say that because I like to try to stay optimistic. I'm not a Pollyanna, but I like to stay optimistic because there is always opportunity, right? Millionaires were made during the Great Depression. There's always opportunity in the world. But how do I help people? And I remember back when I was struggling, making like $1,000 a month, and I couldn't figure out how to scale up. And I think I went up to like 5,000 a month, and I just couldn't break this like 6-figure barrier. And I just kept thinking, like, I wish that there was someone that could help me. I wish that there was someone that I could ask these questions to. And I would look at programs and they'd be like 30K. And I was just like, how am I going to buy a 30K program? Like, or how am I going to buy a 10K program? I only make 5K a month. Like, that would be my whole thing for like 2 months. And so there was this gap between where I was and where I wanted to go. And I just couldn't figure out how to get there. Coaching is one of the things that has absolutely changed my life. Getting coaching, joining masterminds, those things have changed my life. But it took a lot of, it just was really hard to make that leap. It was hard to make that leap. So that's why I created this VIP intensive coaching session. It's like way affordable, way affordable. I've got a link to it here in the chat, and I'm going to post a chat right here. So I've got a link down in the chat, and I also put the link down in the comments so that you guys can book this. I just talked about it on Instagram last week. On my personal Instagram, I just posted it, and we already sold 2 spots. So I only had a handful of spots. So there's 5 spots left, and that's it. Like, I don't have, because the summer's going to be over. So I only have 5 spots left. But this is for you if you need help with automation, if you need help with sassier, more enticing emails that are going to get clicks. Like, you guys, I have built my business on email. Maybe you're not sure what direction to take next. Things feel uncertain. Maybe you're like, I don't know what to do. Facebook ads aren't working for me. What do we do next? Maybe you want to remove some blocks that are stopping you from moving forward, right? These are things that I've worked with, on my coaches. I've gotten coaching to learn these things. And maybe you just want some expert eyes on your social media and digital marketing from a holistic approach. So that's who this would be for. And we'll meet. It's a 90-minute meeting. I wanted to keep it succinct, actionable, ready for you. So I hope that you guys take me up on this. I'm really excited for the people that are already in. I'm excited to see with it. Like, it's going to be really, really cool. And, whether you want to talk about Pinterest or you want to talk about some other stuff, we can talk about that. But, obviously I can talk about Pinterest for like ever and help you with that. So I hope to see you on these calls. I'll be sending out an email shortly with some information about it. So I hope that you guys are on the list. If you are not on the list, then we definitely need to make sure that you get on the list. And so I'm going to drop a little to where you can get on the list, and you'll start with my roadmap. You'll start with my Pinterest traffic roadmap, and you'll get some emails from me. And then you'll be on the list, and you'll be able to get all the other emails from me as well. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'd love to know what you think. Are you a traffic generator or are you a connector? And which have you been in your business? How has that served you? I would love to know in the comments. Let's continue this conversation there. All right.